Dear students, welcome to School of Finance and Commerce, Galgotias University. Today I will going to discuss the last topic of Unit 2, that is biodiversity. This is one of the most important topic of environmental science. So let us start now. These should be the prerequisites when you go through this lecture. You should know all these things well before. The very first thing is you should have the basic knowledge of living and non-living components. Second thing is you should also have the basic understanding of the human life cycle. So these are the two prerequisites when you go through this lecture. This lecture has two objectives. With the help of this lecture, you will be able to know the meaning and concept of biodiversity. You will also get to know about the various strategies of conservation, endemic species, biosphere reserves, and various policies for biodiversity conservation. These are the contents through which we would be moving upon. We will initially start with the meaning of biodiversity, then we will move on to the biodiversity hotspot, then we will discuss the strategies of conservation, then reduction of anthropogenic pressure, then we will discuss the restoration of endangered species, then endemic species, and then biosphere reserves, and finally we will discuss the policies for biodiversity conservation. So if we start from the introductory part of biodiversity, in our biosphere immense diversity or heterogeneity exists, not only at the species level but at all levels of biological organization, ranging from macromolecules within cells to the biomes. Biodiversity is a term which is popularized by the sociobiologist Edward Wilson to describe the combined diversity at all the levels of biological organization. Now, in continuation, the variation is the law of nature, as we all know. It occurs everywhere and every moment. The variations takes place at micro levels. The variations may be linear kind or may be of cyclic in nature. The variety and variability of organisms and ecosystems is referred to as biological diversity. The World Commission on Environment and Development, constituted by the UN General Assembly, it published a report in 1987 which provided a boost and endorsement of the need for conserving the world's rich biodiversity. Despite conflicting views among the nations, a broad consensus was reached after bitter negotiations, and 170 nations they were agreed and signed the Biodiversity Convention. Now, biodiversity hotspot. A biodiversity hotspot is a biogeographic region that is both a significant reservoir of biodiversity and is threatened with destruction. The term biodiversity hotspot specifically refers to 25 biologically rich areas around the globe that have lost at least 70% of their original habitat. The remaining natural habitat in these biodiversity hotspots amounts to just 1.4% of the land surface of the planet. Yet they support nearly 60% of the world's plants, birds, mammals, reptiles and amphibians species. Now, strategies of conservation. So actually the future strategies for conservation has these four goals. Number one is maintenance of adequate resources. We have to maintain the resources. Then conservation of resources through reduction in demand and achievement of greater end use. Then we should maximize the use and utilization of renewable resources. Then we should reduce our dependency on non-renewable resources. So these are the four goals of future strategy of conservation. Next is in situ strategy. This strategy actually emphasizes on the conservation work at original site of biodiversity, that is in the wild. Conservation of overall diversity of genes, populations, species, communities and the ecological processes comes under this strategy. There are 37,000 protected areas in the world as per the World Conservation Monitoring Center. India has 17 biosphere reserves and 19 Ramsar wetlands. Amongst the protected areas, India has 102 national parks and 490 sanctuaries covering an area of 1.53 lakh square kilometer. Then ex-situ strategy. This strategy says that conservation work should be done outside the natural habitat in form of botanical and zoological gardens. Conservation stands, seed and seedling banks, pollen banks, germplasm banks, tissue culture banks, genes and DNA banks, etc. In India, conservation of genetic diversity of cultivated plants and their wild relatives is done by National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources. Now, reduction of anthropogenic pressure. Increasing population and its demands pose remarkable threat to the human beings. About 70% of identified medicinal plants of Indian Himalaya are exposed to destructive harvesting. Cultivation of such plants elsewhere would contribute to their conservation. Then restoration of endangered species. It is very tough and difficult strategy. It requires a specific knowledge about species and its surroundings. This strategy includes diagnosis of factors responsible for the decline of species, habitat conservation, captive breeding, and restriction of harvesting, etc. The strategy includes reintroduction programs in the original site of living, augmentation programs to increase the existing population size and genetic diversity of a species, introduction programs for a new area. Then endemic species. Endemic species are those plants which are limited in their distribution, that is, they are restricted to a small area and they are not found elsewhere in the world. Endemism of Indian biodiversity is significant. About 4,900 species of flowering plants and 33% of the recorded floras, they are considered as endemic to the country. These are distributed over 141 genera belonging to 47 families. These are concentrated in the floristically rich areas of northeast India, the Western Ghats, Northwest Himalayas, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The Western Ghats and the Himalayas have 2 of the 18 hotspots identified in the world. Now, in continuation of this endemic species, it is estimated that 62% of the known amphibian species are endemic to India, of which a majority occur in Western Ghats. Endemism may be due to the following reasons. Number 1 is poor adaptability of a species in a wide range of ecology. Number 2 is presence of some geographical barrier for that species. Number 3 is failure of dispersal of reproductive organs. Number 4 is the species might have comparatively been young and not have time to spread. Now the biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves programs was launched by UNESCO in 1971 under its Man and Biosphere program. Biospheres are sites where protection is granted not only to the flora and fauna of the protected region, but also to the human communities who inhabit these regions and their ways of life. Biosphere reserves are sites established by countries and recognized under UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program to promote sustainable development based on local community efforts and sound science. Now, in continuation of this biosphere reserves, currently there are 580 sites across 114 countries. The Indian government has established 17 biosphere reserves in India. 7 of the 17th biosphere reserves are a part of the World Network of Biosphere Reserves. based on the UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Programs list. Now, these are some of the important national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in India. In Andhra Pradesh, we have Pakhal, Povaram, Kaval, Koleru, Pelicanary Wildlife Sanctuary. In Arunachal Pradesh, we have Namidapha Wildlife Sanctuaries. In Assam, we have Kaziranga National Park and Manas Wildlife Sanctuaries. In Bihar, we have Hazaribagh National Park. In Gujarat also we have Gir National Park. In Karnataka also we have Bandipur National Park, Silent Valley National Park. In Kerala also we have Prayar Wildlife Sanctuaries, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary. In Odisha we have Chilka Lake Bird Sanctuary. In Tamil Nadu we have Madumalai Wildlife Sanctuary, Vedantagal Bird Sanctuary. In Uttar Pradesh we have Corbett National Park, and in West Bengal we have Jaldapara Wildlife Sanctuary. So these all are the important national parks and wildlife sanctuaries which are there in India. Now the policies for biodiversity conservation. We have to identify and monitor the important components of biological diversity that needs to be conserved and used sustainably. Establishing protected areas to conserve biological diversity while promoting environmentally sound development around these areas. We have to respect and preserve and maintain traditional knowledge of the sustainable use of biological diversity with the involvement of indigenous peoples and the local communities. Now the policies for biodiversity conservation and continuation. We have to educate people and raising awareness about the importance of biological diversity and the need to conserve it. We have to promote public participation, particularly when it comes to assessing the environmental impacts of development projects that threaten biological diversity and protecting the biodiversity hotspots from alien species. We also have to conserve biodiversity because it is an important step towards a successful disaster management, and if policies are implemented to protect it, then we can get one step closer in making a disaster-free world. Now these are the 5 self-assessment questions which the students have to answer on the basis of their understanding with the help of this lecture. So these are as follows. Question number 1. What do you understand by biodiversity? Then in question number 2, you have to explain briefly the concept of biodiversity hotspot. In question number 3, you have to differentiate between in situ strategy and ex situ strategy. Then in question number 4, you have to write a short note on endemic species. In question number 5, you have to discuss in detail the concept of biosphere reserves. These all are the references from which the material to prepare this lecture has been taken. Thank you so much for your patience listening. If anything is not clear to any one of you or you want to seek more knowledge regarding any specific point, then you can feel free to contact me at any point of time. Thank you once again.